Right, on to some questions then. Okay, so this month's theme, by the way, safety and etiquette. That's this month's theme. But first of all, I'll get on with a few questions which I've had. So one of those first questions. So I just got the postman turning up. Hopefully he's not actually going to want anything. Do apologise if he does. He'll have to wait. So the first one is from the lovely Des. Also normally puts in some questions. So what is 4/4 timing and what does that mean in terms of track selection for Ciroc? So generally Ciroc is danced for songs. The slower end is around about 90 beats per minute. Right at the top end, something like Christina Aguilera, Candyman, for instance, which we don't play too often, that's around about the 160 beats per minute. They're all normally 4/4 in the timing. So therefore, I'm going to play some music, okay, today. Right, so hopefully you'll be able to hear this. Let me turn this up a touch, okay? So if I play this track here, okay, then this is what we call normal 4/4 timing. So it's going step, step, step. Okay, so you can hear the bass just going on solid like that. Okay, and that's what's happening, right? So for rights reasons, we have to stop them quite early. And then one of the questions is, why do I struggle with some songs that are not necessarily in that way? So an instance, Shape of You by Ed Sheeran is a slightly different sounding track. Okay, so this one here actually has, rather than just a solid, it does have that solid 5, 6, 7, and 8. Okay, but the main beat of it actually is going 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, and. Okay, so that is the kind of the standard beats, and therefore sometimes people often get confused and go, am I doing the quicker 1, 2, 3, and, which is more of a salsa beat, or the solid beat of going 5, 6, 7, and 8, and that therefore can be quite confusing in the timing. So that is kind of the difference between the two. Generally, we normally play the 4/4 timings as the standard. Okay, so there is that one. So next one, what is the difference between the music in the beginners and intermediate freestyles on a class night? Well, theoretically, there's no real difference. We play normal music. One of the things that we do often try and do is in between the beginners and intermediate section, we always try and make sure the music is around about 3 minutes long and relatively medium pace, so 115 to 120 beats per minute. The reason for that is that we have about a 10-minute gap in between, so we try and fit 3 tracks in if we possibly can. And also, if you are a beginner, anything longer than 3 minutes and it's your first night is an enormously long time to dance for. So we try and make them relatively easy to dance to because you're practicing what you've just learned, and also relatively short as well. Intermediate wise, obviously anything goes. We try and mix it up as the night goes through, play some fast stuff, slower stuff, different genres, all of that type of stuff as you go through. Okay, so intermediates, it goes on. Right, we're kind of moving on to the safety and etiquette. I had a couple of questions which I'll read out, and then I'll kind of read some statements which I did get from another website which I thought was very apt. But the first one is here. So, and this is from a lady. I won't mention who it is. Okay, so she says, when you are dancing with someone who is very advanced and who you are struggling to follow, is it okay if you ask them to take it down a level mid-dance, or should I just go through it? I've stopped telling people how long I've been dancing for unless they ask. So just on the how long somebody's been dancing for, in some ways it doesn't make that much difference. I danced with a few people this week actually who were on their first night and they were amazing to dance with, and I could do most of the things that I would want to do. Sometimes people have been dancing an enormously long time and they're still not a particularly high standard. So how long you've been dancing is kind of irrelevant to some degree. But yes, as a male lead, what I'd always suggest, men, is that you dance to the level of your partner. Obviously, if they're much higher than you, then you're dancing to the top of your level. If they're not as good a dancer as you are, then you dance to about their level and maybe a touch more if you want to push them ever so slightly. What I would request, I've seen this happen quite a lot. We have new people on a night and some men go through their same repertoire they do with everybody. They're doing a ballroom drop, lowering the ladies down to the floor. These people never come back. Okay, so do always try and make sure that you are dancing appropriately with your partner as much as you possibly can. Okay, so there's the first part. This also goes into close hold. So also, what is the kindest thing to say to someone who you are not comfortable with, who persists with close hold? Sometimes the pushing on the shoulder doesn't work. So I'm just imagining that you're literally just shoving the man away and he's there going, no, come closer. Yeah, so unless you know your partner particularly well, or you've danced them lots, then try and avoid close holds, I would suggest. If you don't want to do close holds, then it is quite difficult. But men, just be aware that not everybody wants to cuddle you. I'll That's all I'm going to say on that aspect. Right, and then last one on this particular question is, lastly, if as a female you are dancing with a man who isn't leading well, like the signals aren't obvious, do I just keep moving or stop and wait for him to do something that is obvious? Hope that makes sense. Well, one of the fundamentals we always talk about, we talk about 3 basic fundamentals for ladies, is that fundamental number 1 is that when you step back, you wait with your weight over your back foot and you wait for the man to lead. Okay, so if you feel nothing, ladies, do nothing. Okay, eventually the man will hopefully lead. Okay, we have, I've mentioned this before on the podcast, we kind of have 2 ladies types that we talk about. We have waiters and we have runners. Okay, waiters are those ladies that are waiting with their weight backwards. Runners are those that run at you. Okay, and almost you can't lead them anymore because they are leading themselves and they are running at you, so you lose all of the tension. It all goes. Okay, so ladies, if you feel nothing, do nothing. Literally step back, wait for the man to lead. If you're there for 3.5 minutes, come and see a teacher. Will always help you. That's the plan. Right, on to the safety and etiquette section. Okay, so I'm going to do this in kind of 3 different sections. All right, so the first of these sections is be aware of others on the dance floor. So first of all, lead, and I'm going to read a couple of statements out and then I'll embellish on them a little bit. So leaders always should be mindful of the space available for dips. A safe space can become unsafe very quickly, so leaders, make this your responsibility, and followers, don't throw yourself back into a dip unless led. So last weekend at Swindon, it was a very, very busy night. It's a massive venue, but it's still quite cramped on the dance floor at certain times. If you're in that scenario where you're going to lower the ladies down to football kicking level, then, and you're going to get kicked, then don't do that, chaps, okay? Or if you're going to do a dip, just do half a dip, for instance, so you're not going quite so low down. Okay, so yeah, always be aware of other people on the floor, and of course other people are moving as well. Even if you're stationary, other people may move into your dance space, so be aware of that. I love this statement. Okay, so it says, use slotted dancing during freestyle dancing, especially at busy venues. This is what you have been taught in class. Dancing in a circular fashion without consideration to the line of dance can be dangerous on busy dance floors. Wow. So I had somebody recently say to me, slotted dancing, that's great, you learn it during the class, but obviously we don't need to do that for freestyles. And I was a little bit confused by that, if I'm honest. So yeah, we teach slotted dancing. So ladies going forward to back in a straight line, men getting in and out of the way of your partner, okay? The more you do that on the dance floor, the less space you're generally going to take up and the less you're going to bash into people. If you see a number of people dancing slotted next to each other, they're using quite a lot of dance space, but they're all kind of in their own width, which makes it much, much easier. If you then have somebody within that space going round and round and round and throwing their partners all over the place, first of all, the ladies, you don't know where you're going, and also you can then crash into people because you're going side on to where men and other people are going forwards and back. So do try and keep slotted as much as you possibly can. The best way to stay slotted is fundamental number 3. Whenever you do a turn or a spin, keep your feet together, ladies. Men stay on the spot. Okay, so that's the easiest way to get into slotted dancing. Right, and this last one, this is very dear to my heart. So when entering and leaving the dance floor, always move to the edge and walk safely along the side rather than weaving through the crowd. So yeah, I do see that quite a lot. You'll see somebody on the other side of the dance floor and you think, oh, I'd like to dance with them. And people literally march through, oh, let's get out of the way of that person, out of the way of that person to get to the other side. So do try and make sure, if you do see somebody on the other side, walk around the edge of the dance floor, okay? There's nothing worse than people crashing into you, especially, and I've had this before generally, I remember this at Bradford and Avon once, it was tea and coffee time. We served free tea and coffee at Freestyles, which is lovely, okay? They had their 2 cups like this. They walked directly in a diagonal line across the dance floor, and their coffees was just flailing around everywhere. So yeah, please walk around the edge as much as you can, okay? So, next section, when dancing with new partners, and this again is quite an apt thing. Go back to the person that was speaking before. So followers, don't be afraid to let your leader know if you don't like doing dips. Okay, hello to everybody that's joining, by the way. I haven't said my hellos, but do say hello. Okay, so yeah, please do feel free. Okay, I suffer with a bad back myself quite often. I won't do dips on drops, but I'm in control of that. As a lady, it's much more, as a follow, it's much more difficult to control that. So do be aware, and if you do have any injury of any sort, then just say to your partner, please don't do dips and drops. And you don't need to explain, never explain anything. Okay, just say, I don't want to do dips and drops. Okay, and as a leader, don't say, well, why is that then? Am I not good enough? So just accept, for whatever reason, it's in truth none of your business. So, so yeah, don't be afraid to do that. Okay. again, this goes back to the previous one. Don't try your close moves on strangers. So if you don't know somebody, don't hug them too much, okay? You can do a close hold blues-wise, but still keep a good gap between you if you want to. That's fine, but try not to be kind of breasts on chest, as we often call it. It's a lovely phrase. Right, now this next part there, again, I've seen this happen quite a lot in classes. So I'm going to read this part and then I'll let you make up your own minds. I'd love people to discuss this whole thing, by the way, afterwards, okay, rather than just me rabbiting on, which obviously I'm doing at the moment. But please do feel free to discuss on this event how much you agree or disagree, or what you like, what you don't like on the dance floor. But this bit for me is quite apt. So remember that unless you are a teacher, having done more classes than the person you are dancing with does not qualify you to give them advice on their ability to dance. We find that students giving advice to other students during class, and sometimes during freestyles too, can often confuse and sometimes offend. We know that your heart is in the right place and you want to help, but please give the less experienced students the opportunity to listen to the instruction coming from the stage and to find their feet gradually. Unless someone is dancing dangerously and or in a manner that is going to hurt them or you, it's often best to let people learn by their mistakes. Remember, Sarok should be fun, not a stressful experience. So I do generally come across this quite a lot. I have people kind of giving advice to their partner, and it's actually the advice that I would probably be giving in a few minutes' time. Obviously, as a slightly more experienced dancer myself, I might be giving it in a different way or in a teaching way that makes it easier to come across. And sometimes I've had people with couple of months experience trying to give advice to people that have had 10 years experience, and that necessarily doesn't go down that well. So yeah, unless you are qualified to give the advice, probably I'd try and avoid it. Okay, last part. And when I created this, I had loads and loads of people messaging me saying, please mention all of these points, because it's quite uncomfortable to mention them, but I shall try and mention them in as polite a way as I possibly can. Okay, so the section is, please be aware of your personal approach, safety and hygiene, everyone's favorite. Okay, so first one, always politely ask or refuse, and with a very good reason. It isn't a problem to say no. If you've had 20 dances in a row and you can't breathe anymore, or you need the toilet or whatever it may be, okay, then it's okay to say no. All I'd say to that is, don't say, no, I don't want to dance with you, and then walk 5 yards down the dance hall, and then somebody else asks you and you go, oh yeah, that's fine, because the person you've refused to dance will see that and they'll feel really offended. Okay, so if you aren't going to dance with somebody for whatever reason it isn't, you can be perfectly fine, sit out that track. Okay, so make sure then you're then being polite to that person. If you have said no because you kind of need the toilet or whatever it may be, try and find that person again a few tracks later, okay? And that's always a nice thing to do. Otherwise, they'll never come back and ask you to dance again, okay? Sometimes I appreciate you don't want to dance with somebody for lots of different reasons. That's your own personal business. That's entirely up to yourself, okay? But yeah, please at least say no politely. I do generally remember somebody came up to ask somebody for a dance, and they went, and they looked them up and down, and they went, nah. So again, not the nicest thing to do. Let's be a nice society, shall we? Love this one. Especially in the summer months, always bring deodorant, a towel, and a change of tops. And this applies to the ladies as much as the men. Lots of people think it's just sweaty men. It's not. Okay, so please do try and make sure you bring some spare stuff with you. So yeah, obviously we get hot and sweaty. 100 people in a room, you're going to get hot and sweaty. That's one of those things. Bring a towel, bring deodorant, bring spare tops, whatever it may be. That's always appreciated, okay? This one's nice. A toothbrush and mouthwash or breath mints can be a useful addition to your dance bag. Depends what you've had of dinner, of course. If you've had loads of garlic bread for dinner and then you turn up and you go, like that, it's not wonderfully nice. We have mint on our front doors at all times. Please be free to have them as much as you can. I have stocks and shares in mint imperials. I don't really. But yeah, please do feel free to have as many of those as you want. I've had this before as well. Coughing and sneezing into our hands and then offering those same hands to your partner isn't nice. I generally remember on stage once, my partner on stage went, achoo, and then went, I was like, cheers for that. But yeah, if you cough, I've had people wipe their nose and then offer me their hands. Just, yeah, we have all the hand sanitizers on the table as well, front door. Please use those as much as you can too. So yeah, try and do that as well. And this last one that I've got on here anyway is, this is for the ladies. It does happen, I suppose, for the men mainly to the ladies. So avoid wearing sharp and protruding rings that could cause cuts or bruises to your partner, and bracelet, watches and necklaces that could get tangled with you and or your partner and could cause injury. So I remember once practicing with Zoe many years ago, and I was wondering why I was getting all these cuts on my finger. And it was where I was turning Zoe quite a number of times. She had a ring that had pivoted round, and the sharp part of the ring was sticking down. So therefore, every time I turned her, I was effectively slicing my finger open. And that was quite painful. So yeah, ladies, no problem about wearing rings, of course. Just try and make sure if they have got a big stone or whatever on top, that they are on top, and just be aware of that as you're going through. One for the chaps, and I used to have this quite a lot. So I used to have my shirt, and I used to, for some fashionable reason, I don't know why, I used to leave the buttons unhooked at the end of the shirt sleeve. But it meant that when I was turning a lady, if the lady had long hair, the shirt sleeve would drop down, and then the lady's hair would hook itself around the button, and then as I'd lower the hand, I'd rip her hair out. I didn't do this practice for very long, I'd like to point out. But yes, do your buttons up for the men is just another little one as well for you. Anyway, there's loads to do with etiquette. This will be available on iTunes later on. Also available on Spotify, and it's available on YouTube too. Basically later on this afternoon, it'll be a slightly edited version. If you've got any suggestions about what you wanted me to talk about for next month as the main topic, I'm always open. I'd love, as I said, people to do lots of comments about this type of stuff. I know it's a subject very dear to lots of people's hearts. But if I don't see you before, have a fantastic Christmas and New Year, and I will see you next month for next month's podcast. Thank you very much.